everyone, it's Michelle from Scrap Secrets, and welcome to card number 10 in the Countdown to Christmas card series. Today we are going to be making this card, and I'm going to show you how to create your own pattern paper. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the stamp set, and I use Concord and Ninth's holiday cheer tags. I chose this diamond shape from the stamp set to create the pattern paper with. Now you're going to notice that I'm going to line it up slightly off of the top of the paper, and that's because I want to make it look like I did cut down a piece of pattern paper. When you're creating your own pattern paper, what you want to remember is to make sure you stamp images off the edges, because you're never going to find a pattern paper where you're going to be able to cut out every image, every piece of every image. So this makes it look more natural. I'm going to continue to bring the stamp down and make sure the top of the row that I'm going to stamp is lined up as best as I can with the bottom of the row above it. So you'll notice that I didn't get everything perfect. There are some spacing issues. Sometimes I'm a little bit off. But when I do my second layer of Distress Oxide, you won't notice them as much. This is the Candied Apple Distress Oxide. I can't remember if I said that already or not. If I did, I apologize, but this is the Candied Apple color. So I'm going to show you a little bit of this, and then we're going to fast forward and you'll see me work on the end and then the next color. But I just thought I wanted to share with you guys that, you don't need to buy all of the pattern paper in the world to create cards, and I love that you can make it match your exact project. So here we are now at the very end, and I'm going to stamp this last row, and then I'm going to use my Wagner heat tool on setting 1 to heat set it. Because it's partially a pigment ink, it will take a little bit longer to dry, and you also want to make sure that you don't smudge it. So here I heated it up just for a second, and then I went to my paper and made sure that all of the ink was dry. Now this is the second attempt to do the card. I'm going to show you the first attempt. So I bring in this piece of cardstock, and you see how I had it overlapping? I didn't like that, so I decided to go in between the diamonds, and that's actually how it came out best. I thought the first one kind of looked like one of those seeing eye tests, like where you could see the images, those magic eye tricks, and I didn't like the way that it looked. So now we're going to go to the second color, now that I made sure that all of the Distress Oxide and Candied Apple was dry and nothing was going to smudge, because red and green will make a mud color, and I didn't want that for my card. So this time we're using Pine Needles Distress Oxide to stamp up the image. And we are going to stamp in the rows where we didn't stamp with the red. So it's going to be the shapes that were created from the two different lines of the Candied Apple. And again, this one I didn't line up perfectly. There are some times where I overlapped a little bit, and it didn't really make a brown, so it wasn't too bad, and I think it was because the oxide was dry. So I'm just trying to figure out here where I was supposed to line it up, but the way I realized what row I was on is there's just a teeny tiny little diamond, or like a little triangle, on the left hand side of the rows that I needed to stamp the green in. So that's how I kept track of it. It wasn't the big diamond, it was the very small diamond. Made it very easy once I realized that, but it took me a little bit when I was stamping the second row to figure out which one I wanted to stamp. And like I said, I did the first one and I really didn't like it. I did it halfway down with the second color. I did green first in the initial one. And by the time I got to the red, I was really not liking it, the overlap. That's how I had it in my mind. And sometimes when you have something in your mind, it turns out completely different, that you have to adjust on the fly. So that's what I had to do for this one. I actually like the way this came out a lot. I think that it has a very neat look. I haven't seen any pattern paper like this. All right, and it kind of reminds me of a quilt. So now I'm going to stamp that final row, and then again, we're going to hit it with the heat tool so that I don't smudge anything. Now I did smudge some of the colors, and I'll show you how I fix that in a minute. Okay, so there is the piece, and then they're going to heat it with the heat tool. Again, it's on level 1 so that it wasn't too hot. I didn't want to melt anything, but I did have a little green blob down in the bottom right-hand corner. I can't say that I was touching it there. And it looked like it was wet, but it's not. So here's the way I did the smudges. I just took my Rabbit Hole Designs Cottontail blending brush and just went around the corners just to put a little bit of green on it to just give it a little bit of a distressed look. And that kind of blended in the some of the smudges that I got with the ink. Okay, so I'm going to clean it off with some water and my microfiber cloth, and we're going to move on to the next part. Oh, here's the craft color cardstock or card base that we're going to use, and it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I decided that I was going to cut a piece of green cardstock down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches to mat the white piece of paper, and I don't think I ever gave you guys the dimensions for that, and that's 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. Now these images that I cut out here, these die cuts, these are from Sunny Studio Stamps, a die set called Warm and Cozy. They are just strictly die cuts. There are no stamps in that set. And I cut the mittens out of some scrap cardstock, and I cut the cuffs out of some scrap cardstock. Now I'm going to use G05, my Copic marker, to just deepen the little ridges in there just to give it a little bit of a highlight. I didn't exactly get on the lines every single time, but you can't tell once it dries. It kind of goes into the divot. Now I'm just putting some ATG on the back of it and putting them on the front. I wanted it to be a very basic, very simple image on the front because the background is so busy. So there's the card, and then on the inside we're going to stamp a greeting from MFT's Cozy Greetings, and it's going to say, "Wishing you a warm and cozy day." We're going to ink that up in Candied Apple because I put the green backing, the green layer underneath the pattern paper that we created. So I hope you guys enjoyed this card, and it shows you that you don't have to buy pattern paper, that you can create your own, and you can make it match your project. You can make it any colors you want. So it's really something that is completely customizable to your project. I wish I would have known that before I spent all this money on pattern paper. I still do love pattern paper, and I'm going to be doing some cards with pattern paper for a Christmas series. So there's the card, and here's a picture of it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys real soon in another video. Bye!